A strange and deliberate robbery. Around 9 a.m., a homeless man was calmly walking down the street, counting the few coins he had, when suddenly a stranger approached him. The man asked the victim for money, but the victim, who only had $6, refused to give him anything. Without hesitation, the attacker took off his shirt, lunged at the man, pushed him against a fence, and started rummaging through his pockets, trying to take whatever he could find. Fortunately, at that very moment, an off-duty police officer sitting in an unmarked car nearby happened to hear the cries for help. Without hesitation, he rushed over and immediately apprehended the suspect on the spot, rescuing the victim. A robbery was stopped, not by law enforcement, but by the bravery of a true hero. Two masked suspects dressed entirely in black entered the store and pretended to line up like ordinary customers. Their eyes scanned the surroundings. This was a carefully planned operation. Suddenly, one of them drew a gun and aimed it at the cashier, demanding money. The other moved to control the nearby customers, keeping them in check. But the gentleman standing just behind them needed only a single second to draw his own weapon. The armed suspect immediately panicked and bolted in fear. However, his accomplice wasn't as wise. With sharp, deliberate movements and flawless precision, the gentleman swiftly neutralized the remaining threat, bringing a dangerous situation to an end in seconds. An 83-year-old man, a longtime loyal customer, was chatting with a young man beside him when suddenly, three armed robbers stormed in. One wielded a hammer, another a knife, and the third pointed a gun. The young man quickly moved to safety, but after a brief moment of shock and confusion, the elderly man and a store employee joined forces to bravely fight back against the armed attackers. Like a storm in the center of chaos, the old man launched himself into the fray, punching, kicking, and striking from all sides. His fearless assault left the three robbers stunned and scrambling, each tripping over the other in a frantic attempt to flee. A brazen daylight robbery at a shopping mall. This man was smashing a jewelry display case with a hammer, attempting to steal its contents. But in a flash, a brave young man dashed in at lightning speed, subduing the robber in the blink of an eye. Other courageous bystanders nearby quickly rushed in to help restrain the thief until the police arrived. The young man was standing deep in thought, immersed in anticipation of his date that evening with his girlfriend, when suddenly a guy wearing a baseball cap approached, gun in hand, and pointed it directly at him in an attempted robbery. In a split second, the young man sensed the danger. Without a moment's hesitation, he grabbed the robber's wrist, locked it tightly, and tried to wrest the weapon away. The two were instantly locked in a fierce struggle, caught in a tense and desperate stalemate. Eventually, the robber began to tire. Breathing heavily, he signaled his surrender. At that moment, the crowd finally rushed in to assist, and together they managed to subdue the would-be thief, while the young man remained standing firm, still gripping the weapon, and still thinking about his date later that night. A robbery is currently sparking quite a bit of controversy between two opposing public opinions: proactive self-defense and instinctive self-defense. In this case, the robbers were armed and extremely aggressive. The old man's actions were heroic, but they also carried the risk of escalating the situation and putting him in greater danger. In my personal opinion, it's better to let the police handle it afterwards. A failed armed robbery at an elderly man's store. The suspect approached the shop carrying an automatic firearm and announced his intention to rob it. However, the store owner opened fire with a hunting rifle before the robbers could enter, injuring one of them in the arm. The suspects fled the scene shortly after, and the store owner was taken to the hospital after suffering a mild heart attack. A post office robbery in Scotland was spectacularly stopped by a real-life Spider-Man. The suspect, dressed head to toe in black, wearing a black mask, targeted a woman working alone behind the counter. As he approached and violently shoved her aside in the blink of an eye, a real-life Spider-Man sprang into action. He flew over the counter like a superhero, one hand disarming the suspect, the other delivering a flawless chokehold, taking the robber down with lightning-fast speed and pinpoint accuracy. At that very moment, other nearby heroes rushed in to help restrain the suspect and ensure justice was served. A bank robbery was swiftly thwarted thanks to the courageous actions of a security guard and several customers present at the scene. Dramatic footage captured by a security camera shows the tense moment. After grabbing a backpack full of cash, the suspect attempted to escape. He pointed a gun at the security guard, demanding the door be opened. Without a moment's hesitation, the guard sprang into action, tackling the robber and trying to wrestle the gun away. At that very instant, a nearby man launched himself at the suspect like a bolt of lightning, locking him in a chokehold and helping to disarm him. Thanks to the bravery and teamwork of those involved, the robber was quickly subdued. Police arrived shortly after and took the suspect into custody. An attempted robbery at a gas station turned into a stunning spectacle when, in the blink of an eye, a man disarmed the robber with lightning-fast precision. The move was so quick and flawless, it left the armed criminal stunned and speechless. But what happened next was even more shocking. The man spared the robber, choosing not to retaliate. It was an act of terrifyingly powerful self-control. This woman was trying to steal the man's package. After losing several deliveries and growing increasingly frustrated, he was determined to catch the thief in the act. Today, he set a trap, recorded everything, and posted it online to send a clear message to criminals everywhere.
What are you doing? What are you doing, dumb shit? I got you on video anyway. I got you on video and your plate.
A bold robbery of 2025 ended spectacularly, swift, clean, and shocking, as the driver swerved like lightning, throwing the armed robber into chaos while his bewildered accomplices stood frozen, clueless about what had just happened. In the end, the three guys left the scene in humiliating, bitter failure. A terrifying scene unfolded on a city bus this evening. The bus was cruising along its familiar route, packed with passengers. The male driver stopped at a routine station and opened the doors to let new passengers on board. But in a shocking twist, a man who had just stepped onto the bus suddenly pulled out a knife, threatening the driver and demanding money. Caught off guard but reacting instinctively, the driver immediately fought back in self-defense. Just when the situation seemed to spiral out of control, a courageous woman sprang into action. She charged forward and struck the attacker with her backpack, catching him completely off guard. Her quick and fearless move allowed the driver to break free from immediate danger. Realizing his plan had failed, the attacker quickly jumped off the bus and vanished into the night.